This is what the city calls a shared recreation path. It's for people to use and enjoy. And this is what the city calls open space. They have signs up talking about how proud they are of it and how important it is to have open space for people to enjoy. On my right, you have the creek, a line of trees that survive still because of the creek. And right through there, you can see the goat grazing fence that has been put up ahead of time before the goats even get here. And on the street where I live, a full block has already undergone 5 weeks of daily workers replacing a strip of grass that serves absolutely no function whatsoever. But for whatever reason, they decided to kill it. Like, they actually applied poison instead of just digging up healthy grass. Then came through with all the trucks, removed it, and every single day there have been 3 gigantic trucks there, a minimum of 6 employees there, going through the process of doing whatever the end result is going to be of an absolutely functionless decorative border on one street in this urban sprawl. Now, the reason I stopped right here is to show you the state of this open space area. I mean, it's complete crap. It's just crap. Now, most people don't think about this the way that I think about it, but you should, because you all complain about vegetation management and fire fuel all the time, yet absolutely zero progress takes place getting rid of it or replacing it. What the resources go into is the decorative plants and all the water that's wasted on those decorative plants that serve absolutely no function other than to make the people that live in this urban sprawl crap hole feel better about where they live. It's like an illusion. It's a investment in providing an illusion that you don't live where you live. All of this is the invasive takeover that has, gotten worse over a very long period of time. My point is, a lot of people come onto my videos and say, well, then, if you think goat grazing is so bad, what's the solution? I jumped ahead of myself there. I did mention the goat fence. The one thing that you'll see the city put resources into is goat grazing, in terms of at least pretending that they're trying to improve open space and natural habitat. Never, ever, ever, ever has that goat grazing program actually changed the status of any of the spots that they've used them. It comes back terrible every single year. The livestock get fed free meals. Any wildlife that we're hoping to use this area, despite the fact that it's filled with non-natives, are driven out with a herd of 500 to 600 invasive animals coming through. The poop is left behind, and the invasive plants are reseeded, coming back stronger every single year, adding a few more species from time to time, thanks to wherever those goats came from. I didn't mean to spend that much time on it, but I want you to understand the difference between what happens when humans actually care and want to put effort into something. We can force grass to grow in a place that grass shouldn't grow, a grass that isn't even from this country, because we want it to be there. And we will dump endless resources into it because we want it to be there in a drought state under blazing hot conditions. I'm talking this long because this is rare. It's actually not burning me in the morning for a change. They'll do everything they possibly can to make sure that that absolutely meaningless, functionless strip of grass stays green. They flood that street every single day to keep that stuff alive. If I had been given the budget that has been spent just in the weeks that I've watched that grass replacement program take place, if I'd been given that single-handedly, in the time I've lived here, I could have transformed this into a gorgeous native habitat zone instead of it being the exact same shit that it is year after year after year. I guess my point is, don't tell me that we don't have the resources. Don't tell me that goat grazing is the best we can do. Not only do I have the example of what's being done with that replacement strip of grass, when they aren't replacing the grass, every single week, a contracted landscaping company comes through and mows it, whether it should be mowed or not. Every single night and every single morning, it's watered. And then it gets edged, and then it gets leaf blown, and then they come through and reseed it. And they come through and they spray poison to get rid of anything that isn't the grass. We have the money to spend. We just spend it on stupid things. I actually just caught a whiff of goat poop, so they must have arrived. They must be getting ready to start somewhere over here. Isn't that great? When the landfill and the recycled water plant aren't filling the air with noxious fumes, now you have goat poop. And it's all a part of being civilized. It's all a part of the superior species showing their intelligence. You see this expanse of yellow and dead. I got one thing green here. One thing green here. This must be one of the spots that they ran out of money before the goats got to it last year, which was merciful to a lot of different areas. And what we got here is a blue oak sapling, a native plant, which didn't get annihilated, so it had a chance to actually look this good for once because the goats weren't here. The real point I'm trying to make is that the only thing green that looks even slightly fire resistant, and by the way, this doesn't receive any help from humans, so it doesn't get irrigated, etc., etc. This is what native plants are capable of doing in hellish conditions such as this place that doesn't get rain, that is hot as hell, and they're still able to do this. If people wanted to make progress against this problem right here, they'd be focused on putting in some native plants, some perennials that are green year-round, that are fire resistant, that actually benefit the native animals. Instead, we just keep going through the same cycle of this. And we're spending money. The goats are really expensive. We're spending money to perpetuate a problem that we're supposedly fighting. Almost home from my jog. I'm passing through this area. This is just one example of my visual explanation. Right here, suddenly humans don't know how to do anything to help native plants or to fight weeds or get the plant that they want to grow. Suddenly we don't know how to do it right here. Here, suddenly we know. Why? Because soccer takes place here. Occasionally. It's mostly an empty field that gets watered constantly and mowed constantly and reseeded constantly and aerated with other machines constantly and edged constantly and leaf blown constantly. This is what humans do know how to do. All you have to do is turn your head. Suddenly we just can't figure it out. And the funny thing is, accomplishing this with native plants is far easier than trying to accomplish it with this. If they let up from the constant maintenance of trying to keep this alive, and as you can see, they still struggle with it despite the resources they dump in it. If they let up even for a moment, this is dead. It's done. It's finished. Even then, they come in and put in entire new sections where they've just failed to the point that it's unrecoverable. You see the squares? This is where you just haul in a replacement field because you simply can't keep this alive no matter what effort you put into it. On the other hand, we have native plants that could be used and could be put into areas next to the creek that would survive almost on their own. Help them a little bit right at the beginning. Help them a little bit right at the beginning. That's all that would be required. And you'd have beneficial plants that help the wildlife, that make the place smell better, that would actually be sequestering carbon with deep perennial roots. You wouldn't have the never-ending leaf blowers or the hedge trimmers, or I would pray that you wouldn't. Actually, they probably would be dumb enough to do that, wouldn't they? The amount of resources that you can just do away with spending if you would simply resort to using native plants by itself is amazing. That alone is an argument that should win the entire debate by itself. And yet, what do humans come up with? Well, what if we just let livestock rampage through it? That's the best we can come up with when it comes to native habitat. Even as I'm walking through proof that we're willing to throw anything and everything at vegetation if we've decided it's important to us. Look at this shot as I'm leaving. The only thing green that you see are native trees that are green because they're meant to be here and they receive no help. They receive no help from humans. In fact, they're surviving despite what humans are doing to them. The other things that are green are, of course, the grass and some decorative trees that receive constant maintenance. Constant. This is watered every single day, every single night. It's usually a marsh. And then if I zoom in, you have the annual invasives. Never ending. For that. Great. Well, this is the first year that they grazed this entire area before I came and visited to film the actual destructive process, but it's all right. I've got years of filming that. I could tell from 100 yards away that the goats had been here because of the amount of death that I see, the barren, destroyed habitat that people celebrate. Now, what I did do this last year was take a lot of shots focusing on spots. So we'll go back to those spots and I'll just film them. This is one of them. Ladies and gentlemen, this is actually good. This is good for the trees. They like that, especially the young ones. But, you know, more importantly, well, it's not a matter of which one's more importantly, but to the point of what I was saying the other day about how the goats just kind of change the appearance of the weeds. I showed in the previous video how the weeds are laying down naturally because of time. And these are laying down because goats chewed on them and left them or trampled them, but they're still here. And now you have poop mixed in. Look at all that. See here, here's an example. This is exactly the state of the place that wasn't grazed. Just stuff that's laying down. So the goats were here, and even after the goats come in here, it's still just the same as if the goats hadn't been here. Oh goody, my favorite people, Cagwin and Dorwood. As if the leaf blowers in the background weren't noisy enough. Now we're gonna have them in close proximity. It's a different topic on different videos on different channels, but there isn't one day that I've come here documenting what the goats did that I haven't heard leaf blowers, no matter what time of day. Anyway, here's the coyote brush. Let's squat down and take a look at that. And remember, this was good for it.
This particular video is supposed to be focusing on resources and what we do spend our resources on when we decide that we actually care about something. So if you want to watch the full inspection, I go back in there and look at all the damage that the goats did. That's in a separate video. But I did want to include a moment of this just to give you the idea of what we do to native habitat and declare it as good. This is as far as we stretch our brains when it comes to helping native habitat. Now compare that to what we're willing to do to make a field stay green.
Speaking of spending resources, this is one that I bet people don't think of. This guy comes out here and repaints the field like every other week with a robot that maps the field for him and then paints it. I bet you that's more money alone than humans have spent trying to help natural habitat. Here we go. Didn't even intend to get this for the video today, but like it's relentless here. That vehicle, and then there's the other crappy landscaping company, GMP, right behind him. That's 3 different vehicles dedicated to this right here. Been drive away from that park from seeing yet another one. And again. It's just human priorities. We have an endless budget for that stuff. Get to the corner, that's another company. I mean, we spend so much money on leaf blowing and landscaping that they make up a significant portion of the vehicles on the road here. How many vehicles are on this road? How many of them are dedicated to landscaping? How many of them are dedicated to native plants? Humans have a budget when they decide that trees look too healthy. Leaf blowing while they're chopping them up. They are leaf blowing while they're chopping them up. Talk about resources. What do you think they're doing here that requires 1, 2, a trailer, 3, 4, another trailer, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, another trailer, 10, 11. So 9 trucks and then 2 giant earth moving things and a bunch of trailers. Down at the end here, we see humans turning more open space into this that will now become never-ending tree chopping and leaf blowing. And by the way, they grazed that area with goats before developing it. Animal agriculture is just like a precursor to development. They just fuck the land up so bad that you can't go back. This is another park, believe it or not. We left that one. We left the other one in hopes of escaping leaf blowers. It's just what the human race sounds like now. But as we listen to what humans are willing to spend their money on, we have more examples of native oak trees remaining green in the background, and the fire fuel that we somehow don't know what to do with down at the ground, and then the type of grass that we do know what to do with.
Okay, tell me what you think. Leave your feedback in the comments. Because to me, it seems like we're smart when we want to be smart. And when it comes to the habitat, all of a sudden we turn stupid. The only thing we can come up with is feeding it to livestock. But when you look at other things that we actually want to survive, we dump endless resources into it. People challenge me. They say, well, if you're so smart, then what is the solution? Step 1 is to stop doing the wrong thing. You know, if people aren't even looking at doing the right thing or doing something new,
when they're spending all of their time defending a dedication to doing the wrong thing? There's people out there that have to know better than me, but they're not interested in improving. Why they aren't interested in improving is the real question.